Here we go. COPA versus Wright trial, day 4.
So I suggest that you focus on their opinions, because at OK Social, Knitter. I live tweeted Hodlonot versus Wright and I'll report from COPA versus Wright. COPA versus Wright, the identity issue, day 4. Welcome to the third day of cross-examination in rainy London. Expecting more of the same, so it should be good. Court will be in session in 2 hours and 30 minutes from now. Retweeted. BitMEX Research. MEX Research. COPA versus CSW, day 4. The moment the judge provided CSW some advice. Dr. Wright, just let me interrupt a moment. One of the advantages of having independent expert witnesses is, if the court agrees that they have given an objective, suitably supported opinion, the court can rely on their opinions. So I suggest that you focus on their opinions, because at the moment, unless they are completely undermined, it's likely I'm going to rely on them, okay. So instead of disputing the process by which he reached these findings, I suggest you focus on the findings, okay. CSW did not respond. Retweeted. COPA. At OpenCryptOrg. 1. As the cross-examination of Craig Wright has progressed, COPA has shown the court numerous forged documents which Wright has relied on to prove his claim to be Satoshi. Faced with fonts that post-date the alleged dates of documents and a host of other anachronisms, Wright himself has accepted that many of them are inauthentic. Reflections on Day 4 of COPA versus Wright, the identity issue. The blame game shifted from Citrix Metaframe to Ira Kleiman and Atlassian today. We learned that Calvin is supposedly not funding this case, he only provided a loan. We saw complete 180s from Wright. Earlier cases are no longer about him being Satoshi, and a ton of the real bombshell evidence was always forged. I learn a lot of legalese in these proceedings, and let me tell you that what is going on here is called murder. COPA keeps forcing Wright into absurd excuses that no thinking person could possibly accept, least of all the judge. Today's Meller moment for me was when he asked Wright why the screenshot from Speedtest would have Craig's name on it if it wasn't his. Wright, short summary today. But Calvin's summary is even shorter. Is Calvin scaling back BSV association? Since yesterday, these people have been removed from the team listing. Brett B. Andre L. Connor M. Cyril A. Evan F. Frank D. Lawrence L. Lees L. Martin C. Sean R. Thomas G. Retweeted. Ira Kleiman. At Kleiman 1933. Unbelievable. Now he claims that a settlement of $3 billion was offered to me and I turned it down. Does anyone seriously believe that? We have finished for the day. Thank you all for reading. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, it would have been straightforward for you to take this code. Craig Wright says, all of the code is public. Gavin has all the code. The argument is, could I print the code any time? Of course I could. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, do you see they're the same? Craig Wright says, not quite. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, it's the same content, isn't it? Craig Wright says, no, indentation is content, so it's not the same. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, you have taken this from the. Craig Wright says, no, that is Ray Dillinger, funny name. Ray. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, it's a post by on a Bitcoin forum. It was divided into 2 halves due to forum limitations. Craig Wright says, yes, that is the code that I sent to. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, the code happens to break off precisely at the same point as yours does in terms of the point in the code where the forum post ends, right? Craig Wright says, I'd have to see them together. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, your solicitors were asked for that version of the code. Say it was not that version of the code. Craig Wright says, number. Every line of code doesn't change. The majority of it is still the same. So early code is still early code. I can't say when it was updated. I've been schooled on that one now, and every time I update a document I'll have dates, but I didn't at the time. Craig Wright says, I was moving out of home from my ex-wife etc., so I don't have proper documentation. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, so you can't say that this document was the same, just the same content. Craig Wright says, no, what I can say is that I started working on it 2008, and I have versions, and as I work on it, I will periodically print it. Craig Wright says, the 2008 code is difficult to find. The had all of that. My proof has never been, I have all of that stuff. My proof has been that N-Chain can do many patents a year. I have 1,000 patents. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, the document referred to refers to a preliminary version from 2008. Craig Wright says, which was updated. If I'm asked to print out last year's invoices, I will print them out, but they won't be the same as. Would I say it's the same document? Yes. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, is your position that this is a hard copy produced after 2008 that you say is a further version? Craig Wright says, I don't know when I printed it out. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, this is a schedule of answers given by shoesmiths. Referred to early versions of Bitcoin source code dated to 2008. Is this produced by early 2008? Craig Wright says, no, I started and had a working version in 2008. You don't have a local copy. Each time I change the document, I build on it. Doesn't mean I change the copyright. Even if it says 2012, it's still an extension of my 2008 work. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, so you don't have. Craig Wright says, even if I start the work and didn't update it, it's still my work from 2008. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, does it represent the Bitcoin source code? Craig Wright says, yes, and I wrote it. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, when? Craig Wright says, don't know, I may not have updated the copyright. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, so since December 2015. Craig Wright says, it would have been earlier than that. It's pre-Panoptic Rift, which is 2011. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, your solicitors answered questions concerning documents in your witness statement. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, it's not authentic to 2009. Craig Wright says, I received it in 2012. I have no reason to believe it's not inauthentic. But Info Defense had problems, Cloudcroft took over. She took over. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, you said you have no reason to believe it's inauthentic. Craig Wright says, all the material was there. Lynn took all the notes in 2009. I didn't interact with them until I got them back in 2012. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, Madden concludes it's more consistent with current templates than 2009. Do you disagree? Craig Wright says, completely. The template came from a third-party company that was purchased by Microsoft. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, Madden finds manipulation based on this. Plax finds it's unreliable. Craig Wright says, he says he's unable to attribute it to any template given the quality of the scan. I am saying it came from a third-party tool. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, board notes from 2009. It's got an entry for extending BlackNet using the Timecoin method. Madden has compared the current template to the Word template from 2009 that Plax identified. It's much more consistent with the current template. Craig Wright says, number. We used a third-party tool, and it was acquired by Microsoft. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, the handwriting is made to look like a note to N from Satoshi about Bitcoin. Craig Wright says, no, it's more about RID4. Sorry, it doesn't fit. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, and this elaborate story about this document being produced over a period of 9 years was produced after Mr. Bernstein's evidence, wasn't it? Craig Wright says, COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, can I pause you there? It was public knowledge that Satoshi chose ECDSA over RSA in part because of RSA's large keys, isn't it? Craig Wright says, I wouldn't actually say it's well known. It's known in security. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, Satoshi writes about RSA's huge keys. Satoshi's intention was known. Craig Wright says, it's not about huge keys. ECDSA was far more efficient. More about computation. It's the computation time that is huge. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, you said Doc was written in 2002. You made later additions in 2011. Craig Wright says, yes. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, it's right that are forms of digital signatures. Craig Wright says, it's more complex. RSA is combined encryption and signature. ECDSA doesn't. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, ECDSA was selected by Satoshi. Craig Wright says, correct. COPA Jack Dorsey lawyer says, writing, need to try ECDSA, implies trying it for Bitcoin, doesn't it? Craig Wright says, no, it was for a zero-knowledge proof system. You can link so that you can have. In Bitcoin, you can send payment encrypt something if you sell a book. The payment can also decrypt the book. Or we could have an encrypted contract. Load more.
That's what we have for today.